Hi guys, I have another exciting book to share with you guys today, and it's another book from the book series, The Mess Detectives. So our last book was Dial M for Mercy. This one is called The Don't Touchables. So I'm excited to see what the detectives, Bob and Larry, have to learn today. So let's get started. The Mess Detectives, The Don't Touchables, Bob the Tomato, and Larry the Cucumber. Written by Doug Peterson. Be willing to share. 1 Timothy 6:18. Percy P doesn't want his little brother to ever touch his stuff, and that's why Percy is burning mad. Little P took Percy's Magnetic Man action figure without even asking. Why can't they just get along? Find out as detectives Larry and Bob sort through the mess. Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to read is silly. The names have been changed to protect the serious. This is a city where messes are made and messes are cleaned up. I should know. I'm a mess detective. My name is Detective Larry the Cucumber, and my partner is Bob the Tomato. He carries a badge. I carry a badger. Don't ask why. "11:23 a.m. I was drawing doodles in my notepad when a call came in from the 45th precinct. Percy P was in a mess. A big mess. And he needed our help. So Bob and I leapt into our police car and raced to the north side of Bumbleberg. When we reached his house, we found Percy in his room looking really mad. "What seems to be the trouble?" Bob asked Percy P. "My little brother has been messing with my things," he grumbled. I said. I really have a way with words. Percy motioned toward his dresser. The top was very dusty, except for one spot. "That's where I always keep my Magnetic Man action figure," Percy P complained. "But now it's gone, and I'm sure my little brother took it." Your little brother took the toy," I repeated, glancing up from my notepad. "That's right," Percy nodded, "and little P is never, never supposed to touch my stuff." "Then that makes you a don't touchable," I pointed out. "A what?" asked Percy. "A don't touchable. That's someone who doesn't like it when people touch his stuff. I should know. My former partner was always borrowing my things. His name was Elliot Mess, and he kept messing with my notepad. It was very upsetting. He even took..." "Larry," Bob said. "Yes, Bob? Can we just stick to this case?" "Sure thing, Bob. I have to forget the past. What's done is done, and life goes on." "1:35 p.m. After putting out a police alert for the missing action figure, we called Percy P down to the station to view a lineup. 10 different Magnetic Man action figures were lined up against the wall in a special room. Percy looked at them from behind a two-way mirror. "Are any of these action figures your missing toy?" Bob asked. "Take your time," I encouraged. "We need a positive ID." I wasn't really sure what positive ID meant, but it sounded good. Really good. Percy slowly shook his head. "None of these are my missing toy. My action figure had its arm broken off." I looked in shock. "You mean we're looking for a one-armed toy?" I asked. "Well, yeah," said Percy. "How did your toy get broken?" asked Bob. "Little P broke his arm off last week," Percy explained. "That's why I never let him touch my things." "Elliot Mess broke one of my things once," I recalled sadly. The memory stung. "He took my pencil without asking, and he busted it. After that, I asked for a new partner, and we haven't spoken since. That's also when I became a don't touchable. I went on daring raids, barging into houses to stop kids from messing with their brothers and sisters' stuff. I couldn't forget how Elliot had taken my..." "Larry?" "Yes, Bob?" "You're getting off subject again," he said. You're right. I have to put the past behind me. It's water under the bridge. I wasn't sure what water under the bridge meant, but it sounded good. Really good. "2:46 p.m. We were called back to the P house where at 4:15, an argument was in progress. Things were getting ugly. "Hello, ma'am," I said to Mrs. P. "My name is Larry the Cucumber, and this is my partner Bob the Tomato. He carries a badge. I carry a badger. Don't ask why." "What seems to be the trouble?" Bob asked. Mrs. P began telling us about how the P brothers grew up. "Just the facts, ma'am," Bob told her. "Percy P and Little P are fighting over everything in their room," she said. "They won't share anything." I made a note of that. What we found when we entered the bedroom was shocking. Percy had run a strip of yellow crime tape down the middle of the room, right between the twin beds. "What's going on here?" Bob asked Percy. "I'm dividing our room in half," he said. "Little P stays on his side of the room and I stay on my side. That way he won't be touching my things. And if he isn't touching my things, he won't be breaking them." Something wasn't right here, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe that's because vegetables don't have fingers. "Percy blames me because his action figure is missing," Little P moaned. "But I never took it." "You mean you're innocent?" Bob clarified. "Yes." "But you did break the arm off the toy last week. Am I right about that?" I asked. "No," Little P shouted. "Did he say I broke his Magnetic Man action figure?" "Yep," I answered. "That's not true," Little P protested. "Is too," shouted Percy. "I was playing with his toy last week," Little P said. "I admit that. But when Percy saw me playing with it, he got mad and grabbed it away from me. And that's how it got broken." I made a note of that. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place. Bob turned to face Percy. "Is this true?" "Well, yes, it is." Percy was at a loss for words. "But that still doesn't give him the right to mess with my stuff." He was right about that. Section 3.5, paragraph 29 of the Messy Code made it very clear. "My toy is gone and it's his fault," Percy said. "You mean this toy?" asked Little P. While we were talking, Little P had crawled behind Percy's dresser. He came out carrying the Magnetic Man action figure, which was covered in dust bunnies, as was Little P. "Where'd you find that?" Percy asked. "Under the dresser. It must have fallen behind it." Percy was stunned. He'd never thought to look under his dresser. He was so sure that Little P had messed with his toy. "Percy, don't you see what's happening?" Bob pointed out. "You won't share with your brother, and when people don't share, things get broken." "You mean like my toy's arm?" Percy said. "Well, not just that," Bob explained. "When people don't share, they break apart friendships. Sharing brings people together." Percy stared at the floor, deep in thought. I was feeling pretty lousy myself. I couldn't stop thinking about my old friend, Elliot Mess. "What do you think about what I just said?" Bob asked Percy. Suddenly, I couldn't take it anymore. "I'm sorry," I shouted, beginning to sob. I pulled out my handkerchief. "I know I should have shared my stuff. You're right, man. You're so right." Bob looked at me in shock. So did Percy and Little P. Even my badger seemed startled. "What does any of this have to do with you, Larry?" asked Bob. "I never shared with my old partner, Elliot Mess," I said, blubbering. "And as a result, I broke up our partnership. I broke up our friendship." Percy and Little P looked at me. Then they looked at each other. Then they looked at me again. Percy finally broke the silence. "You know, Little P, you're my brother, but you're also my friend, and I don't want to bust up our friendship. You're more important to me than toys." And that's when Percy did a most amazing thing. In this city of messes, I've never seen anything like it before. He tore down the yellow crime scene tape that separated his half of the room from Little P's half, and then he said, "I'm sorry." 2 little words, but they did big things. 3:15 p.m. When we left the scene of the crime, Percy and Little P were having a great time together. They were sharing their toys, and as they shared, they became closer than ever. It was almost as if sharing drew them together like a magnet. Magnetic men, or magnetic peas in this case. Meanwhile, I was on the car phone with my old partner, Elliot Mess. I told him I was sorry for becoming a don't touchable, and to my surprise, he said sorry too. He said he shouldn't have borrowed my things without asking. 10-4, I said to Elliot, just before I hung up the car phone. I wasn't sure what 10-4 meant, but it sounded good. Really good. Then I turned to Bob, who was trying to yank his badge out of my badger's teeth. "Say, Bob?" "Yes, Larry?" "Anytime you need to borrow my notepad, just say the word. You can use it." "Thanks, good buddy." I smiled a big toothy grin. I knew what good buddy meant, and it sounded good. Really good. Well, what an awesome story. And maybe an awesome reminder for us as we're stuck inside in our houses with our families. A lot of times sharing with people can get kind of old when you're with them all the time, right? But it's so important to do because just like Detective Larry learned and Percy P learned in this story, that when you don't share, you can break up friendships, break up relationships. But sharing actually brings people together. So this week, when you're tempted to not share, to keep all of your stuff to yourself, to be upset when your siblings use your things or come into your space, come into your room, just try to be open and to be loving and caring and share with your siblings, okay? So we'll see you guys next time.